Okay, right, what is going on everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be a chest workout and I'm going to talk you through my entire chest workout 4 weeks out of my first ever bodybuilding show, covering obviously exercises, sets, reps, how I set up, execution, and more notably to this video, some of the techniques that I have adopted to not only maximize the stimulus placed on the chest and get the most out of my chest training, but also to be the most prep friendly and beneficial this close out to a show. Because obviously during prep, when your body fat is lower, your glycogen stores are more depleted, you are at a greater risk of injury, your connective tissue and your joints are at a greater risk of injury and strain. So there are some manipulations that need to be made in order to not only maximize your output, but to also not injure yourself obviously close to show day, because that is just not ideal. But without further ado, we're going to crack on, starting with exercise 1. Okay, so as you can see, pec deck is the first exercise that we will be using. Isolation to start off with, get some blood pumped into the muscle, pre-activation, ready for our pressing movements. Setup here is a 5x10, so 5 sets, 10 reps, pyramid style of training, so we're increasing the weight every set in theory. However, my jumps in weight are significantly decreased due to being in prep, and my overall muscular endurance and muscular strength are starting to wither away, as you'd expect. But also sometimes I do a couple of sets at the same weight just to allow that progression into a top set, or if I hit a weight where I feel like it is perfect and any heavier I'll break down in form and execution. I'll do 2 top sets, 1 to failure and then 1 with just a few less reps at the end, of course. But starting with the pec deck, what I like to do is I move my bum a little bit further forward on the seat to allow my shoulder blades to retract and to puff my chest up. This will increase the active range of motion of the pec through the movement, not only putting more stress upon the pec, more stimulus for the pec to grow, but also taking some away from the delts. So obviously minimizing the use of contributing muscle groups and agonistic muscle groups like the delts, while also allowing for a greater active range of motion, a greater stretch on the pecs, which will elicit more growth. That being said, we have our shoulder blades pinned back, but at the end of each contraction, I like to come forward a little bit and squeeze in. What you will feel is if you're pinned back and you come across your body, you can get a certain amount of stretch in your pec. If in that last bit you kind of twist round, you get a further squeeze. So perfect standardized form, coming back, puffed out chest, using that full range of motion, pausing in the hole to minimize momentum and stop swinging through your reps. And then as you drive through, squeeze and then a little twist forward through the shoulder just to get that maximized squeeze and get the strongest contraction out of each end range rep. And again, pausing at the top of that contraction just to make sure that we're not dropping tension off of the pec and onto the shoulders in this part of the movement, as it is obviously quite easy to do so as we're moving the shoulder a little bit. A final thing with the pec deck that you want to do is really think about trying to touch your elbows together. I mentioned before about that slight twisting inwards with the delt. What you don't want to do is have bent arms and just push through like this, as you're just going to be using your delt. So coming out, you're pushing through, you're puffing your chest up like I mentioned at the start, and really think about trying to make your elbows touch with that slight twist at peak contraction. This is going to help keep more tension on the pecs as you get towards that shortened range and minimize the contribution of the agonistic muscles, hence the delts, on this part of the movement. So those are my execution techniques. Obviously in general tips, slow down your eccentric, really feel that stretch, keep the tension on the muscle. Time under tension is what is going to elicit your growth, so keeping the tension constant is only going to increase that total time under tension. Fight that losing battle, pause in the hold to stop momentum and keep tension on the pec, and then drive forward, a little twist at the end, squeeze and pause for the same reason, and that is that. You're good to go, and I'll catch you for exercise 2, our first pressing movement. Okay, this piece of kit is absolutely beautiful. The Gymleco converging flat press. So what happens is not only does it converge and come inwards as you press, aligning with the movement pattern of the pec, but also it is heavier in the lengthened and it drops off as you get short. As we use the pre-activation exercise through the pec deck where we focus on that squeeze, having a machine that drops off in that squeeze now is super beneficial, so we can get some more load in that length and range where we are stronger. Same again, 5 sets. This time I'm doing 3x10, 1x6 and then 1 by 6 to 10. So what I aim to do is to do the 10, drop to the 6, and then try and hit 8 as a sweet spot on my top set. You obviously see some of my build up and also that top set as well. As this has a change in resistance through the movement, it is very, very crucial that you take this machine with good form and execution. You don't just bounce through the reps, as if where it's light at peak contraction, if you just drop straight out of it, it gets heavy quickly and you're trying to catch it with your elbows and your delts. It's going to be a recipe for disaster on your rotator cuffs. Like I mentioned with the pec deck, pause in that hole, drive forward, really, although it's light here, don't take it for granted, really use that drop off in load to your advantage and squeeze in that shortened range. Drive the blood into the pec and then nice and slow on the way down, feel that change in resistance, really make the most of that increased resistance as you get into the lengthen. Again, pause in the hole. What I like to do is I like to pin my shoulder blades back to get a greater range of motion through the pecs and minimize the contribution of the delts to the movement, as the emphasis of this exercise is to prioritize the pectoral muscles, prioritize the chest. And what I like to do, like I said about making sure to make the most of that squeeze, what you want to think about doing is as it converges, you want to think about puffing your chest up and really puffing your chest through the movement as well as pushing through the elbows. You don't want to just think about pushing forward, as that is when the mind to muscle connection is going to be more aligned to the delts. You want to think about pushing your chest through that movement plane, pushing through each rep, and that is how you're going to get the most out of each rep. Okay, so now we're moving on to our third exercise and our second press, an incline press this time. So we covered 2 flat movements. Now we've got blood into the pecs, and when we move into an incline movement, the blood is still going to be on the pecs. Whereas sometimes if you start with an incline movement and you're more of a delt dominant presser, you can just rely on your delts to press the movement. However, we've got blood into the muscle, we've pre-activated the chest, therefore we are more likely in theory to use the pecs to press the movement. Therefore, like me, someone who's prioritizing their upper chest development, this is only going to lend a hand and be extra beneficial to me. So on the Smith press, this is because obviously the Smith is great, it's stable, unlike the free bar. At a time where body fat is low, bracing can be a bit of an issue. There isn't a lot there to support your core. Having a wobbly free weight can obviously increase your risk of injury, and this goes to show is not something we want to do. So Smith machine, fixed, safe. Also, now we can deploy a dead stop technique. You'll see that I've got the safety stoppers up higher, meaning I can get a greater range of motion and really get an exaggerated stretch further than I probably would be able to do on my own, and just rest it against that before each rep. Obviously that is helping to minimize momentum, as I can't bounce out of each rep because I'm placing it upon the safety stoppers. I'm not taking tension off the chest, I'm not letting go of the bar, I'm still creating some isometric force and pushing against the weight in that position, but it's just a gauge. I come down, I stop, hold it isometrically and press again. This not only makes it harder in terms of having an isometric hold in the hole, which you should be doing with slight pauses anyway, but also allows me to get into that compromising position without the compromising drawbacks. For example, being back here, causing internal shoulder rotation and risking rotator cuff injury. I'm coming down, I can keep in a safer and fixed position, prioritizing the chest, get that lengthening process as far and as exaggerated as possible, safely dead stop, and then press through the chest again on the next rep. Similarly to the gym leco press, we are doing a 3 by 10, 2 by 6, with the last one being more of a 6 to 10. So 3 by 10, 1 by 6, and one aiming for the 8 rep range. However, my muscle endurance is in the bin. I've had a couple of low days leading up to this, and as you can see, as we go up in the weight, crewing up in the weight, not only are the increments a lot smaller, I actually did not get the intended reps I wanted to get and had to drop down to a lighter weight for the top set. This is something I want to cover. If it feels better to go lighter and you're going to get more reps and a better stimulus, more stress on the pecs rather than more strokes on the ego by going a little bit lighter, especially in a dieting phase, especially on the back end of a prep. I'm 4 weeks out here. I've been dieting for 14 weeks. Of course I'm not going to be able to lift my heaviest weights. Of course my strength is going to drop off. Of course my muscular endurance is not going to be there due to the lower body fat and the depleted glycogen stores. Therefore, I go lighter, I get more stimulus on the chest, I preserve more muscle, and I'm going to look better on stage. I'm going to look fuller, and I'm going to not lose the muscle that I've spent my whole off season building. But away from that and onto the actual exercise itself, similarly to everything, shoulder blades, pin back, chest puffed up, pushing through with our chest. Although it's a fixed bar and it doesn't converge, still twist in in against it. Get them elbows tucked, as you should do with all chest pressing movements, as when you twist your elbow in, if you just do that sitting where you are now, or standing where you are now, or in the gym where you are now, if you tuck your elbow towards your lats, towards your body, you will feel your chest contract. So why wouldn't you do something that is going to contract the chest more, contract the chest better? So tuck elbows, pinned into your lats, scapula retracted, and chest puffed out. This is going to create the most tension upon the chest before you've even done a rep. So it's only going to give you a greater stimulus when you actually press weight through this plane of movement and in this setup. Very slow on the way down, not just dropping onto the safety stoppers and pressing up again. Nice and slow on the way down so that we can rest it and keep tension, as opposed to just dropping tension off and bounce on the safety stoppers, as this is counterproductive and increases the likelihood of injury instead of decreasing it, which is the purpose of the dead stop technique. And then push out. You can explode out, but make sure you don't just explode out and then come straight into your eccentric. You want to drive out and really try and push your pecs together as if you're trying to snap something between your pecs. That covers that, and I'll catch you all for exercise 4. Okay, we have a new exercise to the channel for exercise 4, our final pressing movement of the workout, which is the Atlantis decline press. This machine is insane. I set the seat up a little bit higher to really exaggerate the decline movement of this machine. Imitate a dip in a safer environment, in a more fixed environment, to keep tension on the lower pec and really make the most out of this final pressing movement. Really make this as much of a chest exercise and minimize the contribution of the triceps and the delts. So again, you can see that it converges. Absolutely perfect, absolutely brilliant for chest training. Anything that converges is very, very beneficial to chest training, because it allows you, like I said, you want to push through and really try and squeeze that pec, really trying to make them elbows touch together, really trying to push into the pec and think about driving as much blood through that muscle as possible. So by converging, it only exaggerates that and only contributes to the stimulus placed upon the chest and the minimizing of the contributing and agonistic muscles like the triceps and the delts. Only 4 sets this time. We are doing 4 sets of 10, and that is the aim. All the anatomical and biomechanical setup techniques and cues are the same as every pressing movement. Elbows tucked, chest puffed up, scapula retracted, and this time we are pushing down, of course. So we've got it set up in a way where we can press down instead of up into the machine to really try and get as low down on that pec as possible. Really try and create that fuller chest look, that drooping chest look, to make your chest look massive. Going to make it look huge when it comes to stage day. Especially with a decline movement like this, it is very easy to roll forward, hunch over and push down with your triceps and delts. That is why we pin back, that is why we tuck in, and that is why we puff the chest. But also what you want to do is to really slow down that eccentric. So you're coming down, you're coming up. As you're coming up, it's very easy to flare up like this and come out of your fixed position and reduce your safety. But as you're coming back, just come back as far as your body allows you to with that puffed up chest, because we're already increasing the active range of motion of the pec. So we can get full range of motion without coming all the way up here and compromising our shoulders and our elbows. So we can come up and press down. Really squeeze that pec together when you press down. Really focus on that mind-muscle connection. These setup techniques are going to only help you to do so and only make it that much easier to do so. Increase that time under tension by keeping constant tension, not flaring up, keeping in that nice and fixed position, keeping the tension upon the pec, not dropping out of your eccentrics, really exaggerating your concentrics, and grow a massive chest. One more exercise. This is a niche one. If you're new to the channel, you might not have seen it before, but I'll take you through it now. And that is the concentric tempo prime press. So what I mean by this is, we obviously on all exercises want to slow down our eccentrics to get more stretch upon the pec. This is where the most growth is going to occur, and keep constant tension upon the muscle, as I've mentioned plentiful times, not in this video but on this channel as a whole. But this one is about using that same ethos, using that same ideology on the concentric. So we're not exploding through and squeezing at the top, we're squeezing and going slow through the whole set, treating our concentrics the same way we would do our eccentrics. It is absolutely brutal. The weight you're going to be using is going to be absolutely reduced / diminished. But oh my, ever since Brad added this into my plan and told me to try this for my upper chest, it has transformed my training massively for the better. 4 sets here, aiming for around that 10 rep mark. If I could get a bit more, I get a bit more. I aim for like a 3 to 4 seconds on the way up. I don't need to squeeze at the top because I'm squeezing in that whole way through. I'm pushing against the handles to create that isometric tension before I've even pressed, and I'm pushing through, keeping constant tension, keeping maximal tension on the pecs throughout the whole set. And this is something I'd advise definitely giving a go, especially on a body part that you do not connect as well with as other body parts. Learning where the body needs to be, not only by doing it slowly like this, it teaches you where and how it should feel. It's not only going to benefit this exercise, but it's going to have a following benefit on your other exercises as well, as you know how it should feel. And when you know how something should feel, you can adjust on your other exercises to make them feel that way too. But right, that is everything, and that is going to end the video for this week. I hope you did enjoy. I hope you enjoyed the talk through the workout. I hope you enjoyed seeing how my chest training has developed and how it is looking at 4 weeks out of my first ever bodybuilding show. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, click that notification bell so you don't miss when we upload. More of these type of videos coming. I've got vlog videos coming, 4 days of eating, all exciting stuff in the build up to my first show, so be sure to check those videos out. They will be details in the description below and on the channel page as well. Playlists are out for you to not miss out on any type of video. If there are any other types of videos that you want to see from me in the future, be sure to leave a comment down below, let me know what you want to see. And until next time, I'll see you soon. I'm out.